Today is 16 August. It's Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. TDS is anti-Christian. That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. All right, we got some news from Israel here. From All Israel, the vexed vicar warns the Church of England has abandoned its historic support for Israel. That should be as no surprise to anybody. The Church of England has gone completely woke. They've appointed a female archbishop. The whole structure is unbiblical anyway, but they've got this lady that's the archbishop. They really have no doctrine of value left in the Church of England. I know that there are people that attend online. Some of them have come out of the Church of England. Some of them have family that are mired in that. In my opinion, there is nothing left of it. Now, that's not to say that there aren't a few good preachers left in the Church of England. Just like, if you're in the Methodist Church, there are probably a few people left that give good doctrine, etc. But for the most part, the Methodist denomination is completely gone. And people want to hold on to these old things, and they want to say, well, we're going to make a difference and we're going to change it back to the way it was. That will never happen. Okay, they are doing that with good intentions, but they are doing it without any reality to the situation. Anyway, Reverend Chris Wickland, known to many online as the Vexed Vicar, believes the Church of England is drifting away from its historic support for Israel, embracing theological and political positions that he argues have fueled hostility toward the Jewish state and weakened the Church's moral witness. Looking at the Church's response since the October 7th Hamas attacks, Wickland argues that many church leaders failed to acknowledge Israel's suffering while promoting what he describes as a one-sided narrative. When October the 7th happened here in the UK, the silence that came from the church was deafening. They just wouldn't speak up, wouldn't talk about it. He believes that silence damaged the church's moral witness at a time when clear leadership was needed. A recurring theme throughout the interview is the influence of replacement theology, which they have always held to. They've always believed that the church has replaced Israel, but they did have a place for Israel in their thinking, and now that's even being washed away. Wickland contends that many churches no longer recognize God's continuing covenant with Israel, despite what he sees as the clear teaching of Scripture. Pointing to Romans and the biblical covenants, he says, you read Romans chapters 9 through 11, it's so clear that God has a place for Israel. And yes, it is. But then you can watch preachers that will give these long and seemingly convincing arguments as to why Romans 9 through 11 doesn't say what it says. And if you are swayed by a good orator, regardless of what the Bible says, you're going to believe that. Then that's what happens. You get people that can eloquently state their side, even if it's incorrect, and people just say, oh, I agree with that now, and they no longer support Israel. If you read the Bible without those people in your head, and I'm talking about Charlie Garrett, if you're going to come into this church and you're going to listen without knowing the Bible, the only reference you have is what I tell you. And that is a very bad place to be. It doesn't matter if you're listening to somebody from Israel, if you're listening to some guy in Texas, or if you're listening to the Superior Word. If you are going to a church and all you know is what you are being told, you are setting yourself up for trouble. That's all there is to it. You must read the Bible and you must know the contents of the Bible well enough to be able to weed out what is incorrect. And if you can't do that, I would suggest that you start immediately. You have no excuse for not knowing the Bible. You can read the Bible in 154 days if you read it 30 minutes a day. Okay, that's not asking a lot either, because most people watch enough TV to fill half a day. You can cut out one TV program, read the Bible for 30 minutes, and you'll be done in 154 days. And that's an audio Bible. Most people read faster than they listen to an audio Bible. Not everybody does, but most people do. And if you read faster than an audio Bible, you'll be done in less than 154 days. That means in 1 year, you can have read the Bible twice. If you're not reading the Bible at least twice a year, then you are being negligent, in my opinion, because you are watching that much TV and probably a lot more. And I include YouTube and stuff like that into TV because people don't watch TV anymore. They watch YouTube or whatever. But there you go. You need to know what you are being told, or you are setting yourself up. That's why you have people in the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's why you have people in the Mormon churches. They move into a town. They've never been to church in their life. They're having arguments between each other, husband and wife. And so what do? We need to go to church to settle things down. And they got 8 churches around them. And they say, which one do we go to? Well, let's go to that one. It's got the nicer lawn, right? Or it's got the better trees, or they manicure it better, or whatever. And so they go there and they spend the rest of their life in Mormonism, thinking that that's what the Bible teaches. Okay? You are setting yourself up. Israel becomes the very central pivot stone, if you like, around which everything revolves in Romans 9 through 11, according to the Vexed Vicar. And if you don't get Israel, you don't get anything. The conversation, and that's true. And why is that true? The reason is because if you believe that God will cut his covenant with Israel, then that means that he will cut his covenant with you. And if you believe that, that means you believe you can lose your salvation. That means that your salvation is up to you. That means that it is not by grace through faith. It is by your effort, and therefore you have set aside the grace of the cross. So everything comes back to how God deals with his covenants. His covenant with Israel must stand. His covenant with Israel right now is not the new covenant. Okay, and people don't understand that either. They are not right with God. All you need to do is read the book of John one time and you'll see that. The people of Israel are mired in the old covenant, the Mosaic covenant. They will remain in that until they come to Christ, and then they will enter into the new covenant. So right now you could say they are not God's people as far as what God is doing, but they are God's people as far as a covenant has been issued to them, and God will not reject that, even with their unfaithfulness. Our unfaithfulness does not negate God's faithfulness. The conversation also explores why the term Christian Zionist has become controversial in Britain and in America and everywhere else in the world. Rather than distancing himself from the label, Wickland embraces it, saying Christian Zionism is a dirty word here in the UK, but we just wear it as a badge of honor because it's true. We believe biblically that the Jews have a right to determine their own state and their own homeland, which is in the land of Israel. He argues that supporting Israel's right to exist should not be treated differently from supporting any other nation's right to self-determination. Addressing the Church of England's broader direction, Wickland argues that biblical authority has increasingly been replaced by cultural and political pressures. All Israel. Colombian incoming president seeks Israeli technology to combat drug cartels and expand security cooperation. The security partnership is expected to be part of a broader restoration of diplomatic relations after outgoing President Petro downgraded ties with Israel in May 2024. Representatives of De La Esprilla's admin said the new government intends to restore full diplomatic and economic relations with Israel, exchange ambassadors, pursue the opening of a Colombian embassy in Jerusalem, lift visa requirements, and withdraw Colombia's support for South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the ICJ. Now, this is important because he's doing what a lot of South America is doing right now. He is taking the country way to the right from the socialist views that they have been holding in South America. And yet, people in America are doing exactly the opposite. They cannot learn from failed socialist states and failed socialist theology that is a warped and twisted system that only causes degradation of a society. It does nothing to help a society. But that's where we're heading in this country because people, everybody wants something new in life. We all want something new, something exciting until we get it. And then we realize that we didn't get what we bargained for. Hence we, supposedly voted in a Biden-Harris administration, right? And we got what we asked for, at least on paper, okay? We want to have a direction that makes sense at all times, not just when it's exciting to us. He has also expressed a desire to expand security cooperation with Israel, including purchasing Israeli defense equipment and working with both Israel and the U.S. to develop Colombia's internet and AI infrastructure. Israeli technology could help Colombia combat drug trafficking, organized crime, and armed groups operating in remote areas of the country. Where previous governments have relied on Israeli equipment, training, and expertise, everything connected to the state security will involve extensive collaboration with Israel. Colombia will request it. Israel will provide it, and that relationship will become stronger. Israel is also preparing for improved relations with its foreign ministry, approving the appointment of Vivian Aysen as the new ambassador to Colombia. While closer ties with Israel may be welcomed by supporters of the relationship, they could also create political tensions for Colombia's Jewish community. An excessively pro-Israel president can generate anti-Semitism and hostile declarations against us. That is something we are watching very closely. So even though you take a side with your government to say we're going to support Israel, people in the in the country that don't like that are now going to take it out on the Jews. So you don't win either way, but it's best to have the whole country on their side and get rid of the miscreants than the other way around. We got some news from Christianity. Mail Online. For heaven's sake, Christian driver is told car insurance will be voided unless he removes his Jesus Loves You stickers from his Nissan Pixo. Go Skippy Insurance informed Simeon Chandra, this is in the UK, that its underwriting department declined the modification done on the vehicle as per stickers added on the vehicle. The 35-year-old driver from Birmingham was also warned his policy would be voided unless he removed the stickers and sent in new dated photos of his Nissan Pixo. Mr. Chandra eventually agreed to this, so he was still insured, but he can raise his question over whether Christian stickers are banned by insurance companies. He had it right on the side of his car, and they said you can't have that. He's now considering his legal options with lawyers at the Christian Legal Center amid claims that his rights to freedom of religion and expression were breached. From the Post-Millennial, James Talrico claims Jesus' healing miracles prove government should pay for health insurance. Yeah, if you read our scriptures, which I don't know what scriptures that guy reads, but he says if you read the New Testament, what does Jesus spend most of his time doing? It's not preaching, it's not teaching, it's healing the sick. We could start with Talrico's brain. That could use a healing. Zero Hedge. Proof. TDS is anti-Christian. New data exposes the purest form of TDS yet. Young Americans so thoroughly programmed that they will abandon church itself rather than sit in a pew next to someone who supports the president. A survey from the Wheaton College Billy Graham Center Research Institute found that 48% of Generation Z adults say that Christians' support for Trump has made them less likely to attend a church. Among strong Democrats, the figure hits 76%. Atheists clock in at 72%. So Democrats, which are essentially atheists by default, are higher than atheists themselves. Even 30 to 44% of young people who still call themselves Christians claim the association turns them off. Lead researcher Rick Richardson noted that spiritual interest among Generation Z remains high, yet church engagement has fallen. We wanted to understand the spiritual motivators and demotivators of young adults ages 18 to 28, and among other factors, we found response to Trump has been one of them. Richardson added that young adults are not looking for churches to agree with them on every issue, but they are looking for churches and pastors to be deeply honest and direct about where they are at and why. Honesty is the last thing these respondents appeared to want. TikTok influencers have been finding themselves in visible distress at the mere thought of sharing a sanctuary with Trump's voters. The report notes how one young woman stares into the camera and frets that she is about to disassociate for the next few hours because she knows the room will contain people who cast a ballot for the president. Another treats Christian support for Trump as an automatic disqualifier for worship. That is not theology. It is political allergy elevated to religious crisis. The same cultural machinery that produces this reaction has been running full throttle on university campuses for years. Those campuses function less as centers of learning and more as godless leftist indoctrination cults that systematically strip young people of any traditional moral or religious framework and replace it with partisan rage. I have seen so many people over the years that I know that went to college, or their children now, because I'm getting a little older, they went to college and they came back completely ruined. These people started out conservative. They started out loving God. They had a personal relationship with Jesus. They go to college and they don't want anything to do with anything moral, anything that is tied to Christianity or to Jesus or to politics that happen to be proper and moral. And I'm talking about from the Republican side, even if most Republican congressmen are totally sold out to, big government, okay, or all senators are totally sold out to big government. At least the ideology that they vote for is proper. And we're not getting that from people because they've been indoctrinated in these colleges to the point where they hate America and everything associated with it. Arizona State University recently turned influencing into an official college major. The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, I would call it mass disinformation, now offers a Bachelor of Arts in Content Creation complete with personal branding, audience analytics, and social media strategy. The degree trains students to manufacture online personas for pay, while the deeper curriculum of elite higher education continues to treat faith, patriotism, and free markets as suspect. We got some news from the Mideast and Africa today. Zero Hedge. Iraq-Syria pipeline to bypass Hormuz could be revived within 3 years. If things don't get better, that will go even faster. I'm certain of it. But they have an old pipeline. This isn't the one that they're digging to go kind of over the little triangle area of the strait. This is one that goes all the way from Iraq across Syria. So it's one that was in effect and then was bombed out of existence, but most of it is still workable, and so that's what it's talking about. The Hormuz crisis that cut off most of Iraq's crude oil exports has accelerated plans by Iraq and Syria to rebuild a damaged oil pipeline to ship crude from the Iraqi fields in Kirkuk to Syria's Mediterranean coast. So you're going all the way across. Syria and Iraq have started negotiations to finalize the contract and are also in discussions while companies that will invest in this pipeline, the executive said. Engineering studies and the purchase of materials will then begin, followed by construction. Implementation will take up between 30 months and 3 years at most, after which the pipeline will be ready. The project is expected to consist of 2 pipelines with the capacity of between 1.5 and 2 million barrels per day. The U.S. voiced its support for the plan. Of course they did. The U.S. also expects U.S. companies to play a role in the construction or reconstruction of the oil route. Iraq desperately needs export routes not depending on the Strait of Hormuz, whose closure exposed this key Iraqi vulnerability, forced OPEC's second-largest producer to slash upstream production, and led to billions of U.S. dollars of lost revenues for Baghdad. So they need to get this done. You probably heard about it, but if you didn't, I'm sure you have, because it's made all the news 50 times, and it depends on who you're reading as to whether it's a good thing or not. But Trump has said he is going to Americanize the Strait of Hormuz. It is now ours because we won the war. The guy lays in bed at night and just thinks up stuff constantly. He's just like, I know what I'm going to do. And so he will do that, and then attacking somebody on that strait will mean you are attacking an American asset, and it brings in a completely different dynamic. The guy is fantastic in how he thinks. So I'm all behind him on that. I hope he does it. It'll be just a real nail in the side of Iran as they fume and hem and haw, but that's what needs to happen. They're totally unrealistic in Iran about anything. They never will be on the same page as the rest of the world. And Trump is just trying to figure how do we get around these lunatics. From Courthouse News, Supreme Court denies PLO request, and I love this, denies their request to pause $655 million win for terror, almost $1 billion. Ruling against Palestinian officials, Justice Sotomayor refused to freeze a $655.5 million judgment. I should say $500 million. It's a little less, but it's more than $500 million, but it's not almost a billion. Okay. Anyway, it's $655.5 million judgment for U.S. families of the terror attack victims. The PLO filed an emergency, request to pause the judgment, warning that enforcement could, listen to this, destabilize government services and jeopardize regional security. They had promoted killing of Jews and Americans and Jewish Americans that happened to be in Israel at the time. They promoted this actively. They got sued, and now they're saying this could hurt our infrastructure. Think of the irony of that. Yeah, the judgment stems from claims brought by the families of U.S. nationals killed in terror attacks in Israel between 2001 and 2004. A jury awarded victims $218.5 million in damages under the Anti-Terrorism Act, which trebled to $655.5 million. But an appeals court overturned the award for lack of standing. Congress responded with legislation setting conditions for when the PLO can be sued via the Anti-Terrorism Clarification Act and enacting the Promoting Security and Justice for Victims Terrorism Act. Last year, the Supreme Court upheld the law in a unanimous decision, finding Palestinian officials can be brought into U.S. courts to defend personal injury suits brought by victims of terror attacks. On remand, an appeals court reinstated the 2016 judgment, but the PLO is now challenging that decision, arguing it violated constitutional limits on finality. Now, they are over there. They're not a part of the U.S. thing, right? But they are saying that this violates the U.S. Constitution on finality, even though they don't fall under the premises of the U.S. Constitution. Anyway, review and reversal are reasonably likely because the decision below marks the first time any U.S. court has resurrected a void judgment that had become final, sidestepping bedrock constitutional principles of due process and separation of powers, the PLO wrote. The money judgment at issue became a legal nullity when the family's appeals were exhausted in 2018. That's their stand. If the judgment was enforced, officials said the PA could collapse. Oh, how sad. Leaving the territory without a government. They've never had a valid government. They're a bunch of lunatics at a time of internal and regional crisis, all caused by them. This would plunge the Palestinian economy into a deep recession, including, have you got out your violins? Start playing now, okay? Including a sudden dramatic increase in the already high unemployment rate. And Israel is not hiring them anymore. They're bringing in people from Thailand and the Philippines because they don't want to get exploded by the people they're paying, right? And failure of critical social services, which would likely fuel anger and frustration and could lead to widespread violence in the West Bank and harm the security situation of neighboring Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, key U.S. allies. The PLO wrote, the Palestinian economy also faces a deepening financial crisis as it accumulates billions in debt. Officials say the $655.5 million judgment could cover a third of annual wages, salaries, and pensions, all public employees. Well, they shouldn't be blowing people up, and then they wouldn't be faced with this. Then without those funds, the PLO says those critical services will go unfunded. Clinics, hospitals, and schools are already closing for a lack of funds, and public employees are working without pay, leading to dangerous political security and economic instability. I know, Zero Hedge. Why on earth are they doing this? The Spanish Red Cross is treating the military-aged men who swam across the border fence and stormed Kuwait like victims of an earthquake. Volunteers in red vests are lining up on the sand at Playa de Trampolin, handing out bread, milk, biscuits, water, cans of tuna, pastries to the thousands who remain after the last week's deliberate mass invasion of Morocco. Police stand by to keep the queues orderly while the same people who refuse to go home sit and eat. Okay, if you go to thecgreport.com, you'll see all kinds of great information that I post every single day. And one of the things I posted either last night or this morning is photos of what the place looked like a week ago and then after they arrived. It was this nice, clean beach with, like you'd figure on Siesta Key. And within a week, there is garbage everywhere. It's floating in the sea. There's just trash. It's like it looks. I better not make a comparison because somebody might live in one of the countries that I'm about to belittle. But I mean, they live in places where it's just filth, right? And they took this beautiful beach and it's destroyed in a couple of days. Destroyed. But that's what Spain wants because they're socialist. And they can't learn that socialism has never worked anywhere in the world, and it will never work anywhere in the world. It will just cause more disaster. But people like the idea of getting free stuff. They get free stuff themselves into poverty. Anyway, Gateway Pundit, Spain's socialist government allocates $25 million to immigrant minors who invaded Kuwait as 1 in 3 Spanish children lives at risk of poverty. Makes sense. Zero Hedge, half of foreign welfare recipients in Spain are Moroccan. Mongolia, from Virginia National Guard.mil. The 1033rd ESC supports exercise Conquest in Mongolia. Virginia National Guard soldiers assigned to the Cedar Bluff-based 1033rd Engineer Support Company, 276th Engineer Battalion, 329th Regional Support Group supported a multinational exercise in Mongolia during the unit's annual training. Participation in Conquest represents Virginia's commitment to national interests supported by Mongolia as a beacon of democracy sandwiched between the Russian Federation and the PRC. The soldiers of the 1033rd ESC represent the very best of our nation's military, and the accolades from their Mongolian counterparts and USARPAC alike speak of volumes of the loyalty and dedication of these soldiers. During the exercise, the 1033rd soldiers supported the exercise with vertical and horizontal construction, surveying, quarry operations, and field maintenance operations. Good job, guys. I hope none of them decides to marry a Mongolian national when he's already married and try to bring her to America and do the paperwork against the law and steal from the government in the process like we saw last week. We'll hope this year they don't do that. Daniel 12 Technology. All Israel. Israeli surgeons perform first complete, I don't know if you heard about this, but this is unbelievable. First complete rib cage replacement with 3D printed implant. The whole rib cage taken out and replaced. Unreal. Israeli surgeons have successfully replaced an entire rib cage with a customized 3D printed implant for the first time, performing the groundbreaking procedure on a woman in her 20s with an exceptionally rare form of cancer. Doctors at Clalit Belinson Hospital said the operation required removing both the patient's sternum and portions of her ribs before reconstructing her chest with a custom-made implant, demonstrating how advances in 3D printing technology are expanding treatment options for some of the world's rarest and most complex cancers. Rare cases require creative solutions. Such a solution would not have been possible just a few years ago. Surgeons had to remove not only Hadassah's sternum, but also portions of the ribs attached to it in order to eliminate the cancer. The surgeons replaced what is essentially the anchor of the entire chest. If reconstruction is not precise, both respiratory mechanics and protection of the heart and lungs can be compromised. Every breath, every cough, or physical movement places significant stress on this area, making it one of the most complex reconstructions in thoracic surgery. Instead of using traditional reconstruction materials such as synthetic mesh, titanium plates, or bone cement, the surgical team selected a custom 3D printed implant made from polyether ketone, a high-performance carbon-fibered reinforced polymer. PEKK combines strength with flexibility in a way that closely resembles natural bone, making it especially well-suited for reconstructing the constantly moving chest wall. The material also allows surrounding tissue to gradually integrate with the implant over time. The surgery lasted about 2 hours. Hadass has since been discharged from the hospital and is recovering at home. The operation is the latest example of Israel's growing role in developing medical applications for 3D printing technology. Wow. Unbelievable. Wow. It's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From Breitbart, Bill Gates given top security clearance during dangerous gain-of-function virus research. Imagine this. Yeah, listen to this. The billionaire was given Q security clearance. That sounds like a James Bond type of thing. From 2014 to 2021, beginning during Obama's failed presidency and overlapping Fauci's controversial and powerful tenure heading NIAID. Q, top secret clearance, typically applies to positions involving nuclear weapons design, national laboratories, critical energy infrastructure, and classified scientific research. The clearance for longtime vaccine advocate Gates begs the question as to whether he was involved in any kind of virus weaponization or deeply classified scientific research, or at the very least, why did he need to know about it? That is scary. From Yahoo, RFK Jr., Lyme disease, RSV, COVID-19 almost certainly created by gain-of-function research, and U.S. will end it worldwide. Lyme disease, he believes it was created by us. RSV, created by us. COVID-19, we know that it was created by somebody. Probably we had our fingers in it. And Dr. Fauci is like Mengele. He really is. He is a lot like Mengele. As a matter of fact, I hope that will start becoming prominent so that when he dies, that is assigned to his name forever. What a dirty person. Fox, RFK Jr. was right to confront CNN over Fauci coverage, say network was scaring people during COVID-19. You think? They were all over it. All of the left was. Kennedy accused CNN of press malpractice and abandoning skepticism toward authority during the pandemic. Gateway pundit, Senator Loomis, Fauci lied to the American people in Congress and is responsible for the overwhelming number of deaths because he blocked ivermectin. He blocked it. All of the people in, Google and all these big search engines all went lockstep. If you said anything about ivermectin, you were banned from their sites. It was unbelievable how they took something that actually was effective and people died because of it. Mail Online, new mRNA flu shot set to roll out. Adults over 50 urged to get shot, which uses the same technology as the controversial COVID vaccine. I'd like all of you to line up and get your mRNA flu shots today, kids. Got some other news here. Zero Hedge. Researcher finds backdoor in Chinese-made routers sold worldwide. I've talked about this before. This is just another article to let you know what's going on. Check yours when you get home. Jacob Baines, CTO at Vulncheck, who found the backdoor, said in a blog post that the vulnerability, dubbed Endless Doors, affects routers manufactured by Shenzhen Zibotong Electronics Company and sold under the ZBT Link and Wi-Flyer brand names. Baines' estimate that at least 100,000 such routers are deployed worldwide. The backdoor Baines discovered automatically dials the same tiny set of endpoints. Whoever controls those domains could take control of the router and potentially use it to access any other devices on the same network. If I had it in my lab at my university, you just invited them straight into your lab and they can roam the network as they choose. Vulncheck published a list of 20 affected models and urged organizations to determine whether any remain deployed in their networks. Vulncheck said users should identify affected devices by their model numbers rather than the brand name because ZBT Link manufactures routers for other companies under OEM and ODM agreements. Now, they are highlighting this because they found the backdoor. That means there are lots of other routers that they simply have just not yet found the backdoor. If it is made in China, it's a very good chance that you are being spied on and they can get everything in your system, everything. So if, people are wise, they will stop buying things from China. You get a car from China, they've already proven this, and that's why we're not selling them here in America, is because they spy on you. They tap into everything that you have and they can read your phone while you're driving your car. Everything from China should be suspect. From Reuters, U.S. agency ends 39% household cap on local TV station owners. I reported on this a couple weeks ago. This is what's happening right now. The FCC voted 2-1. The one, guess what party that person is from, to lift the cap in favor of case-by-case approach. The commission's sole Democrat, Ana Gomez, said the proposal was illegal and argued only Congress can lift the cap. Many critics argue the move will lead to excessive market power among station owners, which is exactly what we want. We do not want the big stations having over control of these little stations. They need to have their own authority. FCC Chair Carr said the move will help local broadcasters survive and pointed to the sharp decline in local newspapers. We should stop hamstringing this one segment of the broader market with outdated restrictions. The FCC kept a rule on the books in the name of localism that contributed to the gutting of local newspapers. I don't want local broadcast TV to go the way of the local newspapers, which is exactly what the left wants. They want you to have no local broadcasting unless it follows the party line. We don't want that. I don't want local broadcasters to go that way. Gomez said the decision is an invitation to bring in a lot of transactions. She added, lifting the cap hands more control of public airwaves to a smaller number of companies whose coverage pleases this administration. It is putting its thumb on the scale in favor of content that this administration likes. Well, when everybody else is sold out to the left, you've got to have something for the right, and that is usually the local TV stations. They're trying to take that power away from them. Carr says the change would allow local TV station owners to increase investment in local programming and give them more leverage against national networks, which he says have too much power, and he is right. Zero Hedge. The state where DOGE is actually working. There are 50 states in the United States of America. It is working in one of them. Which state? Florida. Hey! Well, on July 14th, the State Leadership Initiative was honored to host the Florida DOGE team and their tech partners, Vulcan, Echelon, and DigiBuild, for the Florida DOGE Showcase in Washington, D.C., spearheaded by Governor Ron DeSantis. The state has become the leader for providing accountable and efficient governance to its citizens. Since its creation in 2025, the Florida DOGE team has identified nearly $1 billion in waste and abuse at the local government level and sent over $878 million back to the federal government. We don't need it. Take it back. But the team's work extends beyond fiscal savings and budgetary cuts. It also includes auditing university curriculum and state union programs and reining in rogue municipalities that had adopted woke left policies. SB 1134 banned counties and municipalities from using government funds for discriminatory DEI programs and activities. Florida DOGE found that local governments were forcing employees to undergo transgender humility training, which included the use of a wheel of power privilege that singled out certain ethnic groups as being worse than others. And you know who they are. You're the worst of the worst, folks. In some extreme cases, the team found that local governments were directing taxpayer dollars to immigration lawyers who represented criminal, illegal aliens. Imagine that. All of this was identified by Florida DOGE and prohibited by law. This ideological audit was most prevalent in universities, where the team examined over 74,000 syllabi and 100,000 research articles for left-wing ideological content. Funding for these DEI-related activities was effectively halted through SB 266 and SB 7044. While the federal DOGE program failed to codify reform through the legislation, Florida DOGE succeeded. The next step is to provide the blueprint for bringing it to other states. Enter the State DOGE Playbook, a collaborative effort between the State Leadership Initiative and the Florida DOGE team. This is a step-by-step guide to ensure that these reforms are not merely a temporary win for a single executive's tenure, but a long-term fundamental shift in how red states govern. Instead of Elon Musk drawing from his own stable of engineers, Florida hired volunteers and tech-minded interns to leverage new technologies to conduct investigations and root out waste and ideological indoctrination previously unheard of at the state level. Many of Florida DOGE's accomplishments were secured with a team of only 3 full-time employees. Imagine that. Supplemented by a staff Florida put together. All that's needed are a few liaisons for law enforcement and legislators. And the rest is bulk data analysis. Add to this that Florida DOGE implemented these reforms on just a 6-figure budget. Imagine that. Rarely have government initiatives accomplished so much in such a cost-effective manner. None of these accomplishments would have been possible without the power of new AI tools and data analysis technologies provided by three partners, Echelon, Vulcan Technologies, and DigiBuild. While varying in scope, each was instrumental in identifying waste and abuse during the audits, leading to the most significant reforms in Florida. Echelon was used to analyze spending and waste in the Lee County School District. Florida DOGE identified up to $80 million in potential savings through contract reviews and more than $8 million in savings by eliminating 170 unnecessary positions spanning 30 departments. Programs like this can restore public schools to their proper mission rather than serving as patronage scheme for overeducated administration. Imagine that. Teaching your children at schools. Imagine that. Vulcan Technologies was utilized to conduct top-to-bottom payment transaction audits across the state. It was so effective that local governments throughout Florida are implementing it to find opportunities for savings. So they went statewide, checked out all the governments. Some of the local governments said, this makes sense, let's do this, and now they're doing the same thing. In a time when property taxes are a dominant issue among voters, AI and DOGE principles are bridging the gap, fulfilling the public's demand for making cuts and providing the services local governments owe their citizens. Why? Because we are the citizens. They are working for us, not the other way around. Many other states have similar programs. Texas Office of Regulatory Efficiency has generated over 400 reductions in administrative code, and Oklahoma's DOGE office has produced over $19 million in cuts, which is peanuts compared to us. But Florida's success remains unparalleled, and the SLI state DOGE playbook explains how to emulate its success. We gave back almost $1 billion to the government, and we cut out $1 billion down here. That's $2 billion of money that is not being wasted by the state of Florida. Zero hedge. New Jersey offers taxpayer-funded legal services, just the opposite of Florida, to non-citizens improperly registered to vote. They're going to defend these people that were illegally voting in their state. Governor Sherrill revealed that more than 6,600 non-citizens ended up on its voter rolls. She tried to say it was a mistake, an accounting mistake, until they said, we know it's not. They held out the receipts, and she had to admit that they screwed up. It was purposeful on their part. And now, even though it's purposeful on their part, what are they doing? They're paying the legal fees of these illegal people. Makes a lot of sense. They ended up on his voter rolls, 400 casting ballots between 2023 and 2024. Despite saying the situation is unacceptable and claiming that she is being proactive to fix it, her admin has also begun steering the same non-citizens towards taxpayer-funded legal help. They need to send somebody up there and tell them, how to run their government. Sherrill promptly blamed the software vendor IDEMIA for the problem. They came back with the receipts. Done. Justice.gov. Justice Department files record 25 denaturalization cases against naturalized criminals, including attempted murderers, spousal abusers, and child sex offenders. They are no longer U.S. citizens. They will be leaving, going back to wherever they came from. Zero hedge. DHS confirms over 3 million total deportations, highlights arrests of 5 more worst of the worst criminal illegals. 3 million people. Not only did they say, we can't stop these people from coming, we need more laws and more rules and more government to do it. Not only was that not true, he stopped it completely. We were last month at 18 months without a single release, without a single one. Not only did they do that, he's gotten rid of 3 million that they said they couldn't stop from coming in. DHS.gov, law and order. Crime rates reach historic lows following DHS deportations of criminal illegal aliens. Across America, it is the lowest crime ever in the history of statistics ever. Breitbart, Trump admin cancels 28,000 trucker licenses held by illegal aliens. 28,000. MSN, after Trump's SNAP snap overhaul, 4 million are off food aid rolls. 4 million people that should not have been on them have been taking your money and buying crack or whatever else they buy with it. AP, Texas judge rules that law regulating firearm suppressors and some guns cannot be enforced. If you want a suppressor, go out and buy one. Zero Hedge, Caterpillar. Now listen to this. I don't know if you remember, I remember this entire church applauding when this happened. Biden, every month, I reported on Caterpillar every month during the Biden administration. Does anybody remember what happened? Every month they lost money. They lost billions and billions. They were right at the edge of bankruptcy. The first month that Trump came in, he made it a priority, and they went up, and the entire congregation applauded. Listen to this. After Caterpillar erupts as quarterly sales top $20 billion for the first time amid AI data center boom. You know what? They wouldn't even be in existence if we had elected that guy again. They wouldn't even be here. Who said it? I once shot an elephant in my pajamas. How it got into my pajamas, I'll never know. Yeah, Groucho. Okay, let's see what Les has to say today. There are some that will not go to church. It's because they feel left in the lurch. Like Don Trump's, yes, you do. We won't sit midst your pew. When it comes to Trump, we'll just be smirch. Okay, got a couple ironies here. And yeah, this one is just fun. It's a fun irony. Pixar, everybody knows Pixar does, yeah. Pixar told over 100 staff that they'd lost their jobs using Miss Incredible letterhead. Very good. And Gateway Pundit. Oh yeah, MS Now suggests Trump will try to steal the 2026 midterms, and then they completely dismiss massive voter fraud uncovered in New Jersey. Right. Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.